I still remember the sound my phone made that night, one soft buzz that changed my whole life. It was a quiet Tuesday in Abuja, the kind of night where the city hums but your room feels still. I had just finished sketching a new living room design when the message came in. "Don't come home again. We are done." That was all it said. No explanation. No goodbye. Just that. For a moment, I stared at the screen, hoping I had read it wrong. But it was from Mama, the same woman I'd spent half my life caring for. The same woman whose hospital bills I had paid when no one else could. My fingers trembled. My chest felt hollow. I didn't cry. I didn't even reply with questions. I just typed 2 words, "Okay, Mama." And that was the night my heart broke quietly, not because of the message itself, but because deep down, I knew it was coming. Years of trying to belong, of fighting for their approval, had led to this moment. I just never thought it would end with a text message. As I sat on my couch, the city lights blinking through my window, I thought about all I had done for them, for Mama, for Baba, for my younger brother Kabir, the golden child who could do no wrong. I had carried them for years, paid debts that weren't mine, saved a business that never had my name on it. And still, they found a way to throw me out of their hearts like old furniture. That night, I didn't sleep. My phone kept buzzing, calls, messages, all from them. But I didn't pick up. They didn't need me when I was giving them everything. Now they could live without me. And that, my friend, was how everything began to fall apart. Hey family, before we dive into this powerful story, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss the next one. Please like this video, drop a comment to share your thoughts or lessons you learned, and give your honest review. I'd love to hear what you think. Now, let's begin the story. They always said Kabir was born with light in his hands. Even as children, Mama would say, "Zainab, help your brother. He will be the one to lift this family." And I believed her. Baba owned a chain of small eateries across Abuja, the pride of our neighborhood. He built them from one roadside buka into a name people knew. Kabir was expected to carry the dream forward. Me. I was the quiet one with pencils and colors, dreaming of spaces that could breathe. When I told Baba I wanted to study interior design, he laughed so loud our house echoed. Design? Who in this Abuja pays money for that? You better come and learn how to manage the shops, he said. Mama kept quiet, her eyes on her wrapper, like she was afraid to speak against him. So Kabir went to business school with Baba money. I went to the Polytechnic with my savings and a small scholarship. I sold handmade curtains to pay my hostel rent. No one ever asked how I managed, they only clapped for Kabir. Even when he failed a semester, Baba said, "He will do better next time." But when my department nominated me for Best Student Designer, Baba just nodded and said, That's good." That was when I learned the difference between love that is given freely and love that must be earned. Kabir never had to try. I had to bleed for it. After school, I refused to go back home. I rented a small self-contained in Garki and started freelancing. At first, clients laughed at me. "A woman designing offices," they'd say. But I didn't stop. I redesigned small cafes and salons, then one big chance came, a boutique hotel wanted me to transform their lobby. I poured my soul into that project. When the photos came out online, people started calling. In 2 years, I became known around Abuja, not rich, but respected. Still, Baba never asked about my work. Every time I visited, he'd only ask, "So when will you join the family business?" Mama tried to soften it. "Shebi, you can help Kabir with decoration now." Decoration. That was what they called my dream. But I kept my peace. I thought, maybe one day, success will speak louder than my voice ever could. I didn't know then that even success cannot change a closed heart. It started with a phone call one evening. Mama's voice was shaking. "Zainab, your father's shops are not doing well. Kabir made some bad decisions. We need your help." Without thinking, I said yes. I sent 2 million from my savings to pay their suppliers. Baba didn't thank me. He just said, "You did what a daughter should do." I told myself it was fine. Family is family. But weeks later, I saw Kabir on Instagram posting pictures from Dubai, the same period I cleared his debts. When I called Mama, she said, he just needed a break. He's stressed. I hung up and cried. Not because of the money, but because I realized they didn't see my sacrifice as love, only as duty. 2 years later, Mama got sick. The doctor said it was a heart condition that needed long treatment. Baba called again. Hospital bills are heavy, he said, his voice flat. I didn't hesitate. I sold one of my cars and paid for her treatment. I stayed beside her in the hospital for nights, holding her hand, praying she'd recover. When she got better, she hugged me weakly and said, "God bless you, my daughter." That was all. No warmth, no gratitude in her eyes, only distance. Weeks later, I heard her telling an auntie on the phone, "Kabir is really taking care of me. He comes every day." She didn't mention me once. I smiled sadly and kept quiet. Sometimes, silence hurts more than insult. I had a new idea, a design firm focused on eco-friendly materials for hotels and restaurants. I wanted to bring something fresh to Abuja's growing hospitality scene. It was my dream, but I needed investors. So I thought, maybe my family would finally believe in me. I prepared everything: proposal, figures, designs. I invited them to the house for a meeting. Baba sat like a king, Kabir scrolling his phone, Mama setting cups of tea. I spoke with passion about sustainable materials, recycling, local artisans. Baba interrupted halfway. "Who will pay for all this nonsense? Use that brain to help the restaurant instead." Kabir laughed. "Sis, just stick to decoration." I looked at Mama, hoping she'd say something. She whispered, "Zainab, it sounds risky. Maybe later." My heart cracked quietly that day. I realized I was chasing shadows. That night, as I was leaving, Kabir's wife, Halima, stopped me. Her hands were shaking. "Zainab, please don't tell anyone I said this," she whispered. "Kabir has been taking money from the restaurants. Baba doesn't know everything." I felt dizzy. "Are you sure?" I asked. She nodded, tears in her eyes. "He has secret accounts." I wanted to confront Baba, but before I could, I heard them talking in the living room. Baba said, "We'll leave the business to Kabir. He's our future." Mama replied softly, "But Zainab," Baba cut her off. "She doesn't care about us. Only money." I stood behind the door, my heart pounding. They were planning to cut me out completely. The next morning, I woke up to that text, "Don't come home again. We are done." It came from Mama. I stared at it, numb. No fight, no explanation. Just rejection. I typed back, "Okay, Mama." Then I opened my banking app and canceled every standing order, hospital bills, business payments, all of it. For years, I had sent almost 200 million in total. They never said thank you, but they always called when they needed more. That night, I felt empty, but free for the first time. The silence didn't last. By midnight, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls from Baba, messages from Mama, voice notes from Kabir, some angry, some begging. Kabir said, "You're selfish. You'll regret this." Mama wrote, "You're killing me with stress." Baba shouted in one voicemail, "You owe us. After all we did for you." I listened once, then deleted everything. For years, they had used guilt to tie me down. Not anymore. That night, I prayed. I told God, if walking away makes me a bad daughter, then so be it. I just want peace. 1 week later, Baba asked to meet. He said, "Let's talk like family." I agreed, not to reconcile, but to end things properly. We met at a small cafe in Wuz. They were all there, Baba, Mama, and Kabir. Halima didn't come. I sat down, calm. Before they could speak, I said, "I sold my eco-design project to a foreign firm. They paid 600 million. Their eyes widened. Baba clenched his jaw. "I built this alone," I continued. "Without your help." Kabir hissed. "You're lying." I smiled. "Check the papers if you doubt me." Mama started to cry softly. "Zainab, we are family. Don't turn your back." I looked at her, steady. You turned yours first, Mama. Then I stood up. This is the last time I'll sit at this table, I said. No more money, no more begging, no more pretending. As I walked out, Baba said behind me, you'll regret this. But I didn't look back. I was done being their shadow. For the first time in my life, I woke up without fear of my phone. No messages, no demands, no guilt. Just silence. It was strange at first, like standing in a room that used to echo with noise. I made tea, opened my curtains, and watched Abuja morning light spill over the city. Freedom didn't feel like fireworks, it felt like breathing after years underwater. I started writing again, small thoughts in a brown notebook. Things like, peace is expensive, but it's worth every naira. Love should not drain you. My friends noticed I was calmer. Adaora, my closest friend, said, Z, you look lighter. I smiled. Maybe because I finally dropped a heavy bag. Still, there were nights when the emptiness came back. I'd think about Mama voice, Baba laughter, Kabir childhood smile. Then I'd remind myself, love doesn't mean staying where you're not valued. That was the month I began learning how to live for me. One afternoon, I went to Market to buy fabric for a client. As I haggled with the tailor, 2 women behind me whispered. Have you heard? Baba Musa restaurants are closing down. The other woman replied, they say his son misused funds. I froze, pretending to adjust my bag. So the whispers had started. I didn't feel happy or angry. Just a quiet sadness. I had warned them, begged them to manage things well, but they never listened. When I got home, I sat quietly on my sofa and prayed. God, please have mercy on them. Let them find their way. Some people think revenge is sweet. For me, peace tasted sweeter. 2 weeks later, someone knocked at my door. It was Halima, Kabir's wife. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Zainab, please forgive me, she said, kneeling before I could stop her. I pulled her up gently. Halima, don't kneel. Sit. She told me everything, how Baba blamed her for Kabir's failure, how Mama refused to pick her calls, how the business had collapsed completely. Kabir had fled to Ghana after borrowing money from loan sharks. I listened quietly. When she finished, she said, I just wanted to say thank you for everything you ever did for us. I see it now. Tears filled my eyes. That was the first honest apology I'd heard in years. Before she left, I pressed a small envelope into her palm, some money for her and the baby she was expecting. Take care of yourself, I said softly. That night, I realized forgiveness doesn't always need to be spoken, sometimes, it's just peace in your chest. A few days later, curiosity took me to our old family house in Gwarinpa. It looked smaller than I remembered. The gate was rusty, and the flowers Mama once loved were dry. I met the gatekeeper, Musa. He looked surprised. Auntie Zainab, you came. I nodded. Is anyone home? He shook his head. Baba and Mama went to live in Karshi with relatives. The house is for sale. I stood there for a long time, staring at the building that once held all my memories, laughter, pain, hope, betrayal. Then I whispered to myself, even walls get tired of holding sorrow. And I walked away without looking back. Life began to bloom again. I rented a small office in Jabi and named my firm Bloom Spaces. I hired 2 young designers, both women, who reminded me of myself when I started. We worked on hotels, cafes, and even a school library. Clients started trusting us, not just for beauty, but for the stories our designs carried. One day, a big hotel chain from Lagos called. They wanted a full contract for all their new branches. I couldn't believe it. As I signed the papers, I thought, this is what happens when you stop watering the wrong garden. That night, I smiled for real. Months later, a letter came to my office. The handwriting was shaky, but familiar. It was from Mama. My daughter, I don't know where to begin. We lost everything. Your father is sick. I am sorry for the words I said. Please, if you can find it in your heart, come home. Love, Mama. I sat there for a long time, holding the letter. Tears dropped quietly on the paper. I didn't know what to feel, anger, pity, or love. In the end, I decided to go. Not because they deserved it, but because I needed closure. I drove to Karshi one early morning. The house was small, simple, and quiet. Mama came out first, thinner, older, eyes full of regret. She fell on her knees. "Zainab, forgive me." I lifted her up. "Mama, please. I'm not angry anymore." Inside, Baba was lying on a mat. He looked smaller too, his voice weak. When he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. "My daughter," he whispered. I sat beside him. He couldn't say much, but I held his hand. And for the first time, I didn't feel bitterness, only peace. Sometimes forgiveness is not for them, it's for you to sleep at night. 2 months later, Baba passed away quietly. I paid for his burial and made sure everything was done with respect. People kept whispering, "Zainab is truly a good daughter." But they didn't know, I wasn't doing it for praise. I was doing it for closure. After the burial, Mama hugged me tight. "You are the reason I can still breathe," she said, crying. For the first time in my life, I believed her. The air in Karshi felt lighter that day. It was the end of something old, and the beginning of something new. When I returned to Abuja, I started journaling again. This time, not about pain, but gratitude. I wrote, "Sometimes God breaks your heart to remove the people who don't deserve a seat there. Peace is not loneliness, it's quiet strength." I began mentoring young women who wanted to start design careers. Many came with stories of families who didn't believe in them. I told them, "Let your work speak. Even if no one claps, keep building." Every time I shared my story, I saw hope light up in someone's eyes. And that, to me, was the real reward. One evening, I sat on my balcony, watching the sunset over Abuja. The orange sky melted into purple, soft and peaceful. I thought about everything, the betrayal, the pain, the freedom, the healing. I realized that sometimes losing people is how you find yourself. Mama called that night. Her voice was gentle. "My daughter, are you happy?" she asked. I smiled. "Yes, Mama. Very happy." She sighed. "That's all I ever wanted." As I hung up, the call ended with silence, not the heavy kind that hurts, but the calm kind that means peace has finally come. And in that moment, I whispered to the sky, "Thank you, God, for teaching me how to stand alone, and still smile." My life settled into a rhythm I had never known before. No shouting. No guilt. No sleepless nights. Just peace. Every morning, I made a small pot of tea, watered my balcony plants, and read my journal. It was a soft life, not from riches, but from calm. One morning, Adora came visiting. She looked at me and laughed. "Z, you're glowing." Oh. I laughed too. "Peace is my skincare." She told me about a new art foundation looking for designers to help train women in rural areas. At first, I hesitated, I was done with heavy commitments. But that night, I thought of Mama words before she hung up, "Zainab, are you happy?" Maybe part of happiness is giving it back. So I said yes. Our first training was in Abuja. I still remember the dusty air, the smell of roasted corn, and the laughter of women who came with hope in their eyes. They had never touched design tools before, yet they listened like students in a royal school. We taught them how to make lampshades, curtains, small furniture, from local materials. One woman, Hawa, told me, "Auntie Zainab, this is the first time someone looked at us like we matter." That touched me deeply. Each evening, I sat under a mango tree and wrote in my notebook. For the first time, I felt something new blooming, purpose. On the third day of training, a journalist came to cover our project. He introduced himself, "I'm Idris Bello, from Abuja City Life." He was tall, gentle, with kind eyes that smiled before his lips did. He interviewed me about the project. When he asked, "Why do you do this?" I said, "Because no one believed in me once. Now I believe for others." He smiled and said, "That's a powerful answer." Before he left, he asked if he could visit my office for a follow-up. I didn't know then that his visit would change more than my career. Idris came to my office a week later. He took photos of my team, the designs, and even my favorite coffee mug. As he packed up, he said, "Zainab, you have a rare calmness. Most people chase success, you attract it." I laughed. "Maybe I'm just tired of chasing." He smiled. "Then maybe you finally arrived." After he left, I felt something warm, not like romance yet, but a gentle curiosity. I built walls around my heart. But sometimes, peace makes space for new light. When the article came out, the title read, "Zainab Musa, the woman who turned pain into purpose." The photos were stunning. People began calling, offering partnerships and projects. My inbox overflowed. But what made me smile most wasn't the fame, it was a short text from Idris. "You made the city feel something real today." I replied, "And you told my story with grace. Thank you." After that, we started talking often, about work, life, and sometimes, silence. And I realized, maybe healing doesn't end where love begins, maybe they walk side by side. One Saturday morning, Mama came to my office unannounced. I froze when I saw her. She looked healthier now, her eyes soft with age. "My daughter," she said, holding my hand, "I wanted to see where your heart lives." I gave her a tour, the fabrics, the sketches, the laughter of my team. She smiled and said, "I used to pray you'd come back home. But now I see, you built your own home here." For the first time, we hugged without tears. That embrace healed years of silence. Idris asked if I'd like to have dinner, nothing serious, just food and conversation. We met at a quiet restaurant in Jabi by the lake. He didn't talk much about himself, only listened. I found myself laughing easily, something I hadn't done in a long time. When he walked me to my car, he said, "Zainab, some people build walls, others build windows. You've built both." I smiled. Maybe I'm still learning which one to open. That night, I wrote in my journal, maybe love isn't about starting over, it's about starting gentle. Weeks passed, and Idris became part of my quiet world, never demanding, never rushing. He came with respect, like someone knocking softly on a closed door. One evening, he said, "My mom wants to meet you. She says anyone who can make me smile this much must have a good spirit." I laughed. "Ah, so I'm now meeting the family." He nodded shyly. "Only if you're ready." I agreed. But in my heart, I prayed, "God, don't let me carry old pain into new joy." Meeting his mother was like meeting peace in human form. She wore a soft white hijab and smiled with her whole face. She said, "My son tells me you've been through fire." I nodded. She took my hand and said, "Good. Fire purifies gold." That day, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, acceptance without condition. When we left, Idris whispered, "She already likes you more than me." We both laughed, and for a moment, it felt like the universe was smiling too. Months passed, and life flowed like a calm river. Bloom Spaces opened a second branch in Lagos. Mama now called me every week, just to pray for me. Kabir wrote from Ghana, asking for forgiveness, and I gave it freely. One evening, Idris and I walked by Jabi Lake again, the same place we had our first dinner. He said softly, "Zainab, I don't want to rush you. But will you let me walk beside you, in peace?" I looked at the water, golden with sunset, and said, "Yes, but only if we keep peace as our first promise." He smiled. That's all I ever wanted. And as the sun disappeared, I realized, the girl who once begged for love had become a woman who gave it freely, without losing herself. It rained the evening Idris proposed. Not a loud storm, just a soft drizzle, the kind that smells like new beginnings. We were on my balcony, drinking tea, and watching the clouds. He slipped a small silver ring from his pocket and said, "Zainab, you taught me that peace is not the absence of noise but the presence of calm. Will you let me build calm with you?" I didn't cry. I just nodded, smiling through trembling lips. "Yes, Idris. Let's build calm together." The rain grew heavier then, washing away everything that once hurt. We didn't want a big wedding. Just close friends, family, and a quiet nikah at the mosque near Jabi. Mama wore her best lace and kept crying softly. Kabir flew in from Ghana and hugged me for a long time. He whispered, "I don't deserve your kindness." I said, "You're my brother. That's enough." When Idris and I exchanged vows, I didn't feel like a bride, I felt like a survivor who had found her peace partner. After the ceremony, Idris said, "We'll make our home a soft place." And for the first time, I believed it. Our first house together was a small 2-bedroom bungalow in Guarimpa. I designed it myself, open windows, warm colors, and plants everywhere. We called it the Haven. Every morning, Idris would make breakfast while I watered the plants. Sometimes we worked in silence, other times we danced in the kitchen to old fella songs. One night he said, "Zainab, your laughter fills this house." I smiled. That's because, for once, it's not hiding pain. The house wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful, and that made it holy. One morning, Idris found a small girl sitting outside our gate. She couldn't have been more than 10. She was crying, holding a torn bag. We called her inside, gave her food, and asked her name. "Hope," she said softly. "My parents sent me to the city to work, but the madam chased me out." Idris and I looked at each other. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next day, we decided to take her in. Not as a servant, but as a daughter. We sent her to school and promised her one thing: you will never feel unwanted again. Taking care of Hope changed something in me. I began seeing how many girls around Abuja were like her, bright, but forgotten. So I started a foundation, Bloom Foundation for Girls. Its goal was simple: to teach young women design, creativity, and self-worth. The first class had 15 girls. By the second year, we had over 100. Sometimes, when I looked at them, I saw pieces of my younger self, scared, eager, waiting to be seen. And I told them, "You are enough. Even when no one says it, you are enough." Mama came to see me one sunny afternoon. She sat in our living room, looking around with pride. "My daughter," she said, "you've turned your pain into gardens." I smiled. I just stopped watering thorns. We spent hours talking about Baba, Kabir, childhood memories. Before she left, she said, "If your father could see you now, he would finally understand love." That night, I held her hand as she slept on my couch, snoring softly. And I realized, forgiveness doesn't only heal hearts. It heals generations. One morning, Idris rushed in with a newspaper in hand. "Zainab, you've been nominated for the Abuja Women of Impact Award." I laughed in disbelief. The nomination was for my work with Bloom Foundation. At the ceremony, I wore a simple white dress. When they called my name, I walked to the stage, trembling. I said, "Once upon a time, I begged for love from the wrong people. Now I give it to those who need it most." The audience stood and clapped. And for the first time, I felt truly seen, not as a daughter, not as a victim, but as a woman who rose. One evening, I found Hope sitting on the floor, sketching quietly. When I looked closer, my eyes filled with tears. She had drawn our family, me, Idris, and her, smiling under a big tree. She wrote under it, "My forever home." I hugged her tight. And in that moment, I realized, family isn't blood. It's the people who choose you. Years passed. Bloom Foundation grew into something larger than I ever imagined. We opened branches in Kano, Kaduna, and Lagos. Everywhere I went, people called me Mama Bloom. Sometimes I'd laugh, other times I'd cry quietly at night, because the title meant everything I had lost was worth it. One evening, Idris asked, "If you could change anything about your past, would you?" I shook my head. No. The pain was the seed. Peace was the flower. Now I sit on my balcony, years later, with silver in my hair and peace in my bones. The city hums softly below, and the air smells like rain. Hope is grown now, a designer, a teacher, a light. Mama has passed, but she left with a smile. Kabir has rebuilt his life, quietly and humbly. Sometimes people ask me, "Zainab, what's your secret?" I tell them, there's no secret. Just keep your heart kind and your boundaries firm. As the sun sets, I whisper to the sky. Everything I lost made space for everything I was meant to be. And in the gentle quiet of the evening, I finally understand, peace was never a place. It was me all along.